Good morning, YouTube. I hope your day is going well. My name is Corey, and today we're going to go over some of the set booster commander-specific cards that are coming in the Brothers War set. Now, there's only 5 of these cards. I'm going to read through them, and then I'll give you my thoughts on them as we go along. So let's get started with the first card, the Disciple of Caelus Nin. For 4 and a white, you get a 3/4 human wizard that when it enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player chooses up to 5 permanents they control. All permanents other than the Disciple that were not chosen this way phase out, and permanents cannot phase in. This is kind of an interesting card. Phasing has actually been a mechanic since like the Vision set, clear back in the 90s, but it hasn't been used a lot because it was kind of a complicated and convoluted ability, so they kind of stopped doing it. In this case, though, they've been bringing it back ever since they've been kind of pushing Teferi back to the forefront as being one of the main characters of Magic the Gathering. But in the same token, he's kind of the ability's kind of messed up. In Commander in particular, you can phase out stuff with things like Teferi's Protection or the Teferi Planeswalker from the M21 set. So in this case, if they're messing around and they're like, oh, I'll just phase everything out with Teferi's Protection to keep you from killing me, on your next turn you can slam Disciple and they cannot phase back in until somebody kills the Disciple. The power play here, though, would be to have the ability to phase. I don't know how you would do it, really. Be able to cast the Teferi's Protection and make each of them do it using like something like Hive Mind or something like that, and then slam this down if you're the only one who got to phase back in, because then all of your opponents would then be unable to come back into the game. They would just have to basically leave their board, sit there and do nothing for the rest of the game until this leaves. So this is a fun one, but it could be pretty damn messed up. Next up is Sardian Avenger. For 1 and a red, we get a 1/1 Goblin Warrior with First Strike and Trample. And it says whenever it attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts your opponents control. And whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Sardian Avenger deals 1 damage to that player. I like this card. This punishes those greedy dockside extortionists, because if they don't blow the treasures before this resolves, they're going to get pinged to death with all those treasures. And if they leave the treasures and don't have a way to either deal with this or whatever's going on, they're going to get smacked really damn hard by this guy if they don't have a way to block him or keep him from doing things to them. So this is kind of a fun little punish the greed type thing for artifact players, and I'm here to see it, and I like it. Alright, this one's a mouthful. This is the Archimandrite. For 2, a blue, a red, and a white, you get a 0/5 Human Advisor that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand -4. That's basically the ivory tower stapled onto a creature. And whenever you gain life, each advisor, artificer, and monk you control gains vigilance and gets +X/+0, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn. And then you can also tap 3 untapped advisors, artificers, and monks you control to draw a card. So this is basically taking 3 underserved tribal effects, slapping them onto 1 card, because there's not a ton of monks, there's not a ton of advisors, and there's not a ton of artificers in the game, and gives them something to work with, essentially, if you want to play like a tribal mix-up deck. Because the monks are going to get bigger, your advisors are going to get bigger, your artificers are going to get bigger. One thing that somebody recommended here is the Persistent Petitioners decks, where you mill with the petitioners, but instead of milling them to death, you basically try to beat them to death using the advisors to get bigger and bigger stuff as you gain life, and you make a bunch of these things just huge as you go along. And you're also trying to draw extra cards and things like that. And so you're going to want to keep a big hand here so you gain that big chunk of life at the beginning of the upkeep as you go along. Perfect place for Reliquary Tower, much to the disdain of Pleasant Kenobi. The last couple cards in this pile here is kind of near and dear to my heart because I have a Titania deck already from a few years back. This first card is Staff of Titania. For 2 colorless, you get an artifact equipment. The equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of forests you control, so a mono green deck is the best place for it. And whenever an equipped creature attacks, put a +1/+1 green forest dryad land creature token into play and equips for 3. So every time the equipped creature attacks, you basically get another forest, and it grows by 1 as you go. So you get anything that triggers off of forests coming into play, lands coming into play, just any of that kind of stuff. It's gonna really affect this, and this is kind of a fun little play off of a lands matter themed deck. And then the last card, which ties directly to this, is Titania, Nature's Force. For 4 green. You get a 6/6 elemental that says you may play forest from your graveyard, and whenever a forest enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/3 elemental creature token. And whenever an elemental you control dies, you can mill 3 cards. So this is kind of like a self-contained engine where if you mill because your elementals die, you can play the forests that get milled in, and then you can play it to create another elemental. So like if you're playing a Titania deck, you're already playing things that allow you to make multiple land drops in a turn. So if you're just constantly churning those cards out of your graveyard, you're making a 5/3 elemental every time. So if you get like 2 or 3 extra land plays a turn, you're making 3, 4, 5 elementals. And it's like, okay, they nuke you, you mill all those cards, and then you get to do it again as long as Titania's around. This may actually replace the Titania, the Protector of Argoth, as the commander of my deck. I'm not 100% certain yet, but if it doesn't, instead, this is getting slotted into the deck most assuredly. Well, that's all I have for today. It was just that little short list of cards that I hadn't reviewed yet, but I love these cards. They're all fun. I think they're going to be a blast to play in Commander, particularly the Titania cards, because I have a near and dear place in my heart for those. But, as always, thank you for watching. If you have any recommendations or things to do with these cards, please let me know in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. And as always, have a great day.